The origins of what would become Catholicism are rooted firmly in Second Temple Judaism under Roman occupation. By the 1st century AD, Judea was a province of the Roman Empire, governed through a combination of local rulers and Roman prefects. Herod the Great. Herod was appointed the king of Judea, administered the region until he died in 4 BC, after which his sons, Herod Archelaus, Herod Antipas, and Philip the Tetrarch inherited divisions of his territory. The administrative and judicial role of Pontius Pilate, as prefect of Judea between 26 and 36 AD, is documented in Roman records and is significant in situating historical events, particularly the execution of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Within Judea, the Jewish population maintained a structured religious and social identity, centered on the temple in Jerusalem, the priesthood, and strict adherence to the Torah. Religious authority was fragmented among several groups. The Pharisees emphasized interpretation and observance of the law. The Sadducees associated with the temple priesthood upheld ritual purity and the sanctity of the priestly class. The Essenes lived communally, often in desert settlements practicing asceticism, and the Zealots sought political liberation from Roman rule. Josephus, in his Antiquities of the Jews, along with Roman administrative documentation, confirms these groups' influence and the social tensions between them. Messianic expectations were widespread, but they varied greatly in interpretation, ranging from prophetic deliverers to political liberators. These expectations, combined with heavy taxation, Roman superintendents, and sporadic social unrest, created an environment receptive to figures advocating moral, religious, or political reform. Archaeological evidence, including synagogues, ritual baths, and inscriptions, corroborates the prevalence of structured communities, demonstrating both religious cohesion and local governance. This context is crucial to understanding the emergence of Jesus Christ of Nazareth and the subsequent movement that formed around him. Historical records outside Christian texts identify Jesus Christ as a Jewish teacher active in Galilee and Judea. References in Tacitus, Josephus, and Suetonius, while brief, corroborate his existence and execution. Roman administrative records, combined with Jewish historiography, place his ministry during the governorship of Pontius Pilate under the reign of Emperor Tiberius. Jesus' activities, as documented, involved public teaching, gathering followers, and interaction with local religious authorities. Although the New Testament Gospels were written with theological intent, they preserve historically verifiable details, such as geographic locations, Capernaum, Nazareth, and Jerusalem, and the presence of contemporary political figures. Archaeological investigations confirm the existence of towns and settlement patterns consistent with Gospel descriptions. Contemporary correspondence, particularly the Pauline epistles written within 2 to 3 decades after Jesus' death, documents the presence of communities adhering to his teachings and indicates early organizational structures within those groups. The historical significance of Jesus lies not in theological claims, but in the persistence of his movement, which continued to develop communal practices, leadership structures, and patterns of teaching after his execution. Jesus' execution is documented in both Roman and Jewish historical sources. Tacitus' Annals confirms that he was crucified under Pontius Pilate during the reign of Tiberius. Josephus provides additional context regarding the social and political environment in Jerusalem at the time. Following the execution, his immediate followers continued to gather for teaching, communal meals, and religious observances. Paul's letters, composed between 50 and 60 AD, and references in the Acts of the Apostles demonstrate that these communities initially remained small and concentrated in Judea, predominantly composed of Jewish adherents. The destruction of the Second Temple in 70 AD during the Jewish-Roman War profoundly affected the Jewish religious landscape, removing the central site of ritual worship. Contemporary records suggest that early Christians were initially viewed by Romans as a sect within Judaism, a classification that influenced their treatment by authorities. Apostolic letters document the organization of these communities, which included designated leaders responsible for teaching, administration, and charitable distribution. Archaeological evidence of house churches, inscriptions, and communal artifacts supports the existence of structured gatherings outside of the temple, showing continuity in religious practice and leadership. Following the Crucifixion, the movement expanded beyond Jerusalem into Judea and the wider Eastern Mediterranean. Paul's missionary journeys, as documented in his letters and corroborated by Acts, established communities in key urban centers, including Corinth, Philippi, Ephesus, and Rome. These communities were structured with identifiable leadership roles: bishops, responsible for doctrinal oversight and governance; presbyters, charged with teaching and pastoral care; and deacons, administering charitable works. Acts, cross-referenced with Roman records, provides a chronological framework for the dissemination of these communities, indicating that early Christian activity aligned with trade routes and urban centers under Roman administration. Worship took place in private homes and, in some cases, in synagogues, reflecting continuity with Jewish practices while adopting distinctive elements of Jesus' teachings. Archaeological findings, including inscriptions, early Christian symbols, and remnants of house churches, confirm that these practices were established and maintained across diverse locations. Evidence of internal conflict over issues such as Gentile inclusion and adherence to the Torah is documented in Pauline letters, illustrating both the challenges and organizational adaptability of early Christian groups. By the end of the first century, documented evidence confirms firmly established Christian communities in Rome, Antioch, and Alexandria, demonstrating the emergence of a cohesive network with hierarchical leadership and shared practices. By the mid-1st century, historical evidence shows that early Christian groups were increasingly diverging from mainstream Jewish practice. The death of Jesus and the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 AD during the Jewish-Roman War produced both political and religious upheaval. Josephus' accounts describe the devastation inflicted upon Jerusalem and Judea, including mass casualties, the destruction of the temple, and the imposition of severe Roman penalties on the Jewish population. These events forced Jewish groups, including early Christians, to redefine religious identity independently of the temple and its priestly system. Early Christian letters, particularly those of Paul, document the growing inclusion of Gentile converts, reflecting a shift from exclusively Jewish observance to a broader, multi-ethnic community. The integration of Gentiles posed challenges regarding adherence to Torah law, circumcision, dietary restrictions, and festival observance. Paul's correspondence with communities in Galatia, Corinth, and Rome demonstrates that early Christian leadership actively negotiated these tensions through instruction and doctrinal guidance. Archaeological evidence supports these developments. After 70 AD, house churches in urban centers such as Rome, Antioch, and Corinth alongside inscriptions identifying bishops and presbyters, provide tangible confirmation of organized worship outside the Jewish temple system. The Bar Kokhba Revolt, 132 to 135 AD, documented by Josephus and Roman records, further separated Jewish and Christian trajectories. Christians are noted in these sources as maintaining distinct communities, unaffected by the political militancy of Jewish rebels. Roman administrative accounts, including military reports and provincial documentation, indicate that Christians were recognized as a separate sect, subject to sporadic persecution due to their refusal to participate in state cults or acknowledge imperial authority. These records show that early Christian communities maintained continuity in practice, hierarchy, and social organization despite external pressures. Early Christian communities expanded across the Roman Empire, following trade routes, urban centers, and port cities. By the late 1st and early 2nd centuries, historical sources indicate that Christians were established in major cities including Rome, Alexandria, Antioch, and Carthage. Writings of church fathers, such as Ignatius of Antioch, d.c. 108 AD, Clement of Rome, d.c. 99 AD, and Polycarp of Smyrna, d.c. 155 AD, provide contemporary documentation of the hierarchical organization, doctrinal instruction, and communal discipline that characterized these communities. Ignatius, in his letters, emphasizes the role of bishops in maintaining doctrinal unity and preventing schism, marking the emergence of a defined ecclesiastical hierarchy. Clement documents the existence of structured leadership in Rome, demonstrating continuity from the apostolic period and the establishment of authority beyond local congregations. Polycarp's correspondence indicates the transmission of teaching and the role of elders in preserving orthodoxy across geographically dispersed communities. These letters, together with Roman administrative documentation, illustrate the integration of ecclesiastical leadership, doctrinal cohesion, and practical governance in early Christian networks. Persecution, while sporadic and regionally variable, is a consistent element in early historical records. Tacitus, in Annals, describes punitive actions under Nero following the fire of Rome in 64 AD, documenting executions of Christians as scapegoats for political purposes. Roman imperial records and inscriptions corroborate the existence of punitive measures, often localized and administrative rather than systematic, empire-wide persecution. Martyrdom accounts, preserved in letters and inscriptions, demonstrate the resilience of early Christian communities and their organizational structures. House churches, baptismal facilities, and early Christian symbols, such as the ichthyes, provide archaeological evidence of continuity, persistence, and spatial organization. Communities coordinated instruction, ritual observance, and charity through the established hierarchy of bishops, presbyters, and deacons, maintaining cohesion despite external pressure. By the early 3rd century, documented evidence shows a well-dispersed Christian presence across major urban centers of the empire. Church fathers' letters, including those of Cyprian of Carthage, d. 258 AD, reveal the increasing administrative sophistication of the Church, including procedures for addressing heresy, maintaining discipline among clergy, and overseeing charitable distribution. Coordination through synods, letters, and informal councils demonstrates early efforts to standardize practice and maintain doctrinal consistency. Archaeological evidence from basilicas, inscriptions, and communal artifacts confirms the existence of organized communities capable of sustaining both local and trans-regional ecclesiastical administration. The cumulative historical record, including letters, inscriptions, archaeological remains, and Roman documentation, indicates that by the early 4th century, Christian communities had evolved into a highly organized network with hierarchical leadership, established rituals, and codified instruction. Bishops had attained authority over doctrinal matters, presbyters administered local teaching, and deacons maintained practical support for community members. These developments laid the foundation for the transformation of Christianity from a persecuted sect into a structured, empire-wide institution, setting the stage for legal recognition under Constantine in 313 AD. By the early 4th century, Christian communities across the Roman Empire had developed into structured organizations with hierarchical leadership, codified teaching, and established ritual practices. Despite this internal organization, Christians remained subject to sporadic localized persecution, though systematic empire-wide suppression had decreased in the late 3rd century. The political and social context changed decisively with the rise of Constantine the Great, who became sole emperor of the Western Roman Empire by 312 AD and subsequently of the entire empire. Historical sources, including Eusebius' Life of Constantine and surviving imperial correspondence, document Constantine's favorable disposition towards Christians, culminating in the Edict of Milan in 313 AD. This edict, co-issued with Licinius, granted Christians legal freedom of worship, restored confiscated property, and established protection under imperial law. It represents the first documented legal recognition of Christian communities within the Roman state and marks a pivotal turning point in the institutional history of Catholicism. Following the Edict of Milan, Constantine's patronage facilitated the construction of public church buildings, including basilicas in Rome, Constantinople, and other urban centers. Archaeological evidence confirms the development of these structures, which served both as places of worship and as administrative hubs for local Christian communities. Imperial support also enhanced the influence of bishops in major cities, allowing them to exercise both religious and administrative authority. This strengthened the position of Rome as a central coordinating authority, while bishops in other urban centers, including Alexandria, Antioch, and Carthage, increasingly assumed responsibility for doctrinal oversight and dispute resolution. Historical records, including letters from bishops and accounts of provincial synods, document the growing centrality of episcopal authority and the development of an organized ecclesiastical hierarchy capable of managing expansive communities. The period following the Edict of Milan was marked by efforts to codify doctrine and establish doctrinal uniformity across the empire. The First Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, documented in Conciliar Acts, represents the first ecumenical council convened to address theological disputes, particularly the controversy surrounding Arianism. The council produced the Nicene Creed, a statement of faith that articulated the relationship between the Father and the Son, thereby standardizing key elements of Christian theology. Subsequent councils, including the First Council of Constantinople in 381 AD, further developed the understanding of the Trinity and addressed doctrinal variations that threatened unity. Surviving conciliar acts, letters, and contemporary accounts provide verifiable evidence of the decisions reached, the participants involved, and the mechanisms employed to enforce doctrinal consistency. These councils, together with letters from bishops and church fathers, formalized the roles of bishops, presbyters, and deacons, reinforcing hierarchical organization and centralizing ecclesiastical authority. Writings of church fathers during this period, including Athanasius, Augustine, and Jerome, provide additional documentation of the consolidation of doctrine, canonical texts, and theological education. Athanasius' letters and treatises establish the authority of episcopal oversight and provide early documentation of the process by which scriptural texts were recognized as authoritative. Augustine's writings, particularly during the late 4th century, reflect an organized, centralized church capable of doctrinal guidance, pastoral instruction, and integration with civil structures. Jerome's work in translating the Hebrew and Greek scriptures into Latin, the Vulgate, demonstrates the Church's efforts to standardize texts and ensure accessibility across the Western Empire. Archaeological evidence from basilicas, inscriptions, and Christian art confirms uniformity in ritual practice, administration, and clerical organization across geographically diverse regions. By the early 5th century, the Catholic Church had emerged as a historically documented, centralized, and structured institution. Rome functioned as the primary center of ecclesiastical authority, with a clearly defined hierarchy of bishops, presbyters, and deacons. Church councils and papal correspondence, preserved in letters, conciliar acts, and administrative records, document the standardization of liturgy, canon law, and clerical organization. Imperial legislation under Theodosius I, including the decrees making Nicene Christianity the official state religion, reinforced the Church's authority and societal influence. Archaeological evidence, including basilicas, inscriptions, and Christian iconography, demonstrates both the continuity and uniformity of ritual practice and governance. By 400 AD, Catholicism was firmly established as an organized, centralized religious institution with continuity in leadership, doctrinal teaching, and worship practices, forming the foundation for expansion throughout Europe and the Mediterranean in subsequent centuries. The consolidation of Catholic identity during this period was not merely administrative, but also doctrinal and cultural. The establishment of canon law, standardized liturgy, and theological education created a cohesive institutional framework capable of managing a multi-ethnic, empire-wide community. Bishops exercised authority over both doctrinal interpretation and local governance, while synods and councils ensured consistency across the broader church. Written correspondence, inscriptions, and surviving artifacts document a networked institution, firmly rooted in historical reality, which combined organizational, theological, and cultural authority. This foundation enabled the Catholic Church to survive subsequent political upheavals, including the collapse of the Western Roman Empire, while maintaining continuity of leadership and doctrine. Through documented correspondence, conciliar acts, archaeological evidence, and imperial legislation, the period between 313 and 400 AD demonstrates a clear trajectory from legalized religious movement to centralized, doctrinally unified institution. Catholicism, as it emerged in this period, was defined by hierarchical leadership, codified theological teaching, standardized ritual practice, and integration with civil authority. This transformation, recorded in contemporary and near-contemporary sources, represents the historically verifiable origin of the Catholic Church as a structured and enduring institution.